From the heartland of America to every nation on earth, this is Jack Van Impe Presents The Truth in News and Commentary. Here now are Doctors Jack and Rexella Van Impe.
Hello and welcome to Jack Van Impe Presents. Once again today we have some very shocking headlines from around the world to share with you. One of them right here from the United States. National Day of Prayer ruled unconstitutional. Whew. Is the X-37B the start of war in space? And Ahmadinejad calls 9/11 a big fabrication. We'll deal with all of those and much, much more in just a moment. But, you know, we have been seeing some earthquakes around the world that have been devastating. You know, Jack and I have been in several earthquakes. One over in Korea where we were having some meetings there, and they were shocked because they don't normally have them in South Korea. Also, we were in California. I'll never forget that one. We were only married a couple of years, and Jack, whoo, it really came out there in California.
We'll soon be discussing the earthquakes that have just taken place along with the volcanoes, etc. But sometimes something humorous happens even through an earthquake. Rexella and I had just been married 2 years. And you know, a few weeks ago, I told how when I met Rexella, I used the language of that day. When I saw her, I said, hubba, hubba, ding, ding, woo, woo. And my next door neighbor, Dave Worley, said, I laughed myself sick. Dave, you haven't heard anything yet. Rexella, we were in Los Angeles for a crusade, just married 2 years.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there in the room, and this beautiful girl passed by me. I said, Rexella, come here, sit on my lap. And she did. And I said, I'm going to give you the biggest kiss I ever did. And I put my lips on hers, and an earthquake hit. I'm telling you the truth, and the whole room started shaking. And when I got through kissing her and released her, I said, whoo, hubba, hubba, ding, ding. I can't believe what happened. But it really startled me. Wow, I'll never forget that second year of my marriage, sweetheart.
Well, we'd never been in an earthquake before. At least I had never been in an earthquake before that. And it is rather devastating, but it came out all right. The people there were all right after that one. Yes. And the kiss was great, by the way. Well, you know, Jack, we need to be in prayer very much for those in Beckley, West Virginia. After weeks of grieving, 2,000 West Virginians came together to say goodbye to the victims of the nation's worst mining disaster in nearly 40 years. My, oh my, pray for them, friends. Also, something happened, another disaster, oil spills into Gulf after rig disaster. They're trying to do what they can to contain the damage there. And blast jolts oil world. Well, the Gulf rig, of course, exploded, and they really have a great problem. We need to pray about that. Mississippi digs out from the storm, and here's a tornado. Was one of the most destructive in U.S. in a long, long time, killing many and demolishing hundreds of homes. And volcano eruption halts Europe flights. Now, we all know about this.
28,000.
Yes, 28,000. Let's take a look at where it happened. That cloud that closed a continent, and a volcano erupted in Iceland, and of course, the travel in Europe was ground to a halt. They could not get those planes out. And cyclone kills 89 in India. Friends, you notice we're going around the world here with all these disasters. Not only did it kill 89, but it wrecked so many homes, so many huts over there. India investigates radiation scare. They're saying, what in the world? Where did it come from? Radioactive substance. They've got to find out. Northeast storms growing more fierce and more fierce. And that's here in our country. This hurricane season predicted to be busy. Oh, the Atlantic may see as many as 15. Magnitude 7.7 quake rattles Indonesia. Back there again. Beijing embraces the quake survivors as toll passes. Look at that, 1,100. were killed. China searches for quake survivors. And a powerful tornado leaves 10 dead. Now they're talking about Mississippi there, but you know, that tornado ripped through the entire southeast. It certainly was a devastating thing for all of those states. And again, we need to be in prayer for all the people that we've just mentioned in those headlines now. So many places, so many things happening. Jack, are these things mentioned in the Bible? Does it point to the return of the Lord?
Oh, Rexella, I'll tell you, we've never seen anything as devastating in so many parts of the world as just the last couple of weeks. And then there are those Christians who say, oh, this doesn't prove that Jesus is coming. We've always had volcanic explosions, earthquakes, tsunamis, and all the rest. Wait a minute. First of all, there's a specific sign I want you to understand. Jesus talked about prophecy and his return in Matthew chapter 24, Mark chapter 13, and Luke chapter 17 and 21. There are 500 signs pointing to his coming to earth. All 500 are already fulfilled. We could go home at any time. But let's look at this for a moment. It doesn't matter how many things happened in the past, wars and rumors of wars, famines, pestilences. There had to be two major signs in existence before it meant anything, as they all came together. And Jesus mentioned that in Matthew 24, verse 33. He didn't say when you see wars and rumors of wars, when you see earthquakes, look up. No, he said when you shall see all these things, then you'll know it's even at the door. You can almost hear the knock. Now, what were the two signs that had to happen? And they never happened until your lifetime. The first was that Israel had to become a nation, the blossoming of the fig tree, Matthew chapter 24, verse 32. One pastor one time wrote up an article against me. He said, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. The fig tree isn't Israel, isn't it? How about Joel 1:7? There's a war, and it says, they have stripped my fig tree. And Hosea 9, verse 10, I saw your fathers as the first ripened in my fig tree, Israel. No doubt about it. That had to happen. It didn't happen until May 14th, 1948. Secondly, after they came back and called Israel their nation, they had to capture Jerusalem, Luke 21:24, which happened during the Six-Day War, June 5th through 10th in 1967. He said, those are the two leading signs, and when all the rest happened in connection with this, then it's near even the door. In the Greek, he commands it. Oh, you must know, I demand that you know that it's near even at the door. And then he gives all these signs. Now, hear me very carefully. First of all, these volcanic explosions. And the craters were rumbling. And hot ashes, fiery looking, and smoke billowed into the heavens. And you know that is the word of God. And remember, it was so horrendous that 750 tons per second of ash and smoke came into the heavens. And that's Joel chapter 2, verse 30, and Acts chapter 2, verse 19. And Jesus said, there'll be fire and smoke arising into the heavenlies in those two texts. Now again, we have all of these hurricanes, cyclones, tsunamis. What'd you say, Jesus? The sea and the waves will be raging and roaring, Luke 21, verse 25. Well, what about some of these other things that have happened? These earthquakes. And man, this has been something. Do you know that usually one of these tornadoes sweeping through that brings many of the earthquakes, they're related, is usually just maybe a few hundred feet wide. These were 8,000 feet wide, 1.5 miles sweeping across the nation, 50 miles of it at 160 miles an hour. They've never known anything like this. Jesus again said in Luke chapter 21, verse 26, men's hearts will fail them for fear, for looking after those things which are coming to pass on the earth, for the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. And they saw it in Mississippi and some of these states. It almost hit 9 different states, Rexella.
Right.